And we are moving on with the discussion with our next very special guest. He's actually somewhat of a legend in the no-code world. Believe it or not, when Zeroqode was started a few years ago, his application was already live and kicking, and I think it was profitable as well. So we're going to be presenting Nate Washington, who is the CTO and co-founder of Qoins and founder of Codeless Academy. Nate is a person who everyone keeps referring to, at least in the Bubble community, that's for sure, and I'm sure that in the larger no-code community as well. His application Qoins has been one of the first mobile apps that has been created without code that is still working and live today. And Nate, from what I heard, actually you recently, like fresh news off Twitter, you got a grant from Google for Black founders for one of your projects. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and about your journey and share those bits of insight of people that can use that they can use basically in their projects and their everyday lives? Let us know.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I don't necessarily think of myself as a legend, just someone else
But you
who's
are.
kind of building every day.
I'm telling you,
um,
man, for sure. I mean, whenever someone comes up and asks, okay, is there an app that is really working on Bubble? And Qoins has to be like one of the top 3 apps out there. I'm telling you. I mean, I've been in those conversations so many times. So don't don't be too modest, and please take it from here.
oh, thank you so much. But yeah, you're right. As of just yesterday, Google for Startups announced the winners of their Black Founders Fund Awards. So they originally announced it back in June, that Google for Startups was, investing $5 million into Black-led startups and companies, and basically in non-dilutive, non-equity awards of $50,000 to $100,000. Qoins, we're fortunate to have been a recipient of that. It's obviously been a long year with the pandemic and everything like that. So being able to have the support of Google for Startups, and to have some cash that doesn't take equity or anything like that behind it, was a great award for sure. But yeah, so I first started my no code journey, I guess about 5 years ago, in 2015. It's kind of when I stumbled on Bubble. That Then prior to Qoins, we started Qoins actually in 2017. But prior to Qoins, I knew I wanted to build something. I had so many ideas in my head, and wanted to tinker with them, build applications, things like that as I could. And for me, I actually had some experience writing code, years prior, probably about 5 or 6 years before that, but I hadn't touched it in so long, that I couldn't remember anything that would allow me to go out and build something. So I stumbled across Bubble, was really interested in the platform. It looked really kind of easy to get going and kind of start tinkering with. So I built my first application in 2015, which was like a long distance ride sharing application. This was still back in kind of like the semi early days of Uber and Lyft, right? So people were starting to get comfortable getting into the car with strangers. So I started to kind of tinker with that and work on long distance rides. That didn't work out. So then I started on my second application, which was kind of like a daily drink specials app at local bars where, they could offer kind of like a subscription model where people could come in and get like free drinks at certain times and things like that. That didn't work out either. I also started, as you mentioned, Codeless Academy, which is, started off as kind of like a platform that presented videos and tutorials and things like that on how to do different things in Bubble, and then eventually evolved into what it is today, which is a kind of like a platform that helps people convert like their Bubble web app into a native application. But the biggest success so far has definitely been Qoins, right? So I'm my co-founder. for Qoins in 2016. And he originally had the idea for it, and that is essentially an application that helps people pay off debt faster, and save more money and kind of learn more about their finances, right? So gain a level of financial literacy, financial education, things like that, right? But originally what we wanted to do is we wanted to start off as kind of something, I'm sure people have heard of, apps like Acorns and Digit, things like that, right? Roundup apps, right? So we wanted to start out by basically being the Roundup app for debt, right? There are so many apps, you could take your spare change and invest it or save money, but at the end of the day, we kind of took a step back and said, if we're paying credit cards that have a 15% interest rate and our savings accounts are paying less than 1%, we're never going to get ahead, right? So in late 2016, we set out to kind of get started with it in Bubble. I had some experience using that before. My co-founder, wasn't technical, but there's a really cool story that we first met at a networking event, and I got his contact information, and I didn't really tell him I was interested in working on the idea or anything like that, right? So I went home from there and kind of did my due diligence on the idea. Is this something people would use? Could I build it? I'd never built a financial application before. So I kind of got to work in Bubble, started, building different pages, started using Plaid, which is an API or service that allows you to link your customers' bank accounts, things like that. So a week later, I had built a kind of a basic, bank login flow, and, where, you could kind of go through, authenticate with your bank, and, we'd get the data back that we need in order to start rounding up your transactions, things like that. So after I kind of built that first demo, I reached back out to him and said, hey, I want to sit down with you and kind of show you what I've done so far. I think you'll be interested in it. So we sat down. He was blown away completely. He actually had another meeting with a dev shop lined up right after our meeting, and he ended up bringing me with him to the meeting. He said, we're working together, like maybe there's something we can all work out or something like that. The dev shop wasn't very happy, but we ended up kind of sticking it out and becoming co-founders. And then I would say Bubble has definitely been a competitive advantage for us. As time has gone on, we've been working on Qoins. We launched in early 2017. It's 2020 now, so it's been a few years, right? As time has gone on, our application has shifted and changed to the point to where we have started using code, in different parts of our business, right? But we still, to this day, use Bubble for like a huge part of our business, our entire backend, and Bubble's allowed us to get to where we are today, right? I guess to give a high level tidbit, since we launched, we've helped people pay off over $15 million worth of debt, right? And we've changed, we don't just round up anymore, right? We help people, pay off their debt through direct deposits when they get paid, right? We help people save money. We've got a new emergency savings account that's coming out within the next couple of weeks that has a competitive interest rate, right? And then beyond that, we've started introducing one-on-one coaching, so you can get financial advice from a real person and all that kind of stuff. The backbone of all of those features is still within Bubble, right? So for us, early on, we had our first few hundred customers, things like that. And there reached a point where we needed to, I guess, kind of change the backend structure of our Bubble setup. So our hardware, right? So, if anybody's familiar with Bubble, that everybody's apps kind of live on, what's called a cluster, right? So you have some shared infrastructure, and that's part of how Bubble's able to structure different plans a certain way and things like that, right? So for us, there reached a certain point where that main cluster didn't really meet our needs. We needed certain things like a a specific static IP address and things like that. So for us, we went to Bubble and said, hey, we need all these things. We don't know if you guys can do them, but we're going to need to be able to do this to integrate this new service provider that we need. They came back to us and said, great, we'll get you on a dedicated plan and we'll scale with you. And, as you need more capacity, you can reach out to us, we'll add it, things like that. And I would say that at that point, I knew that Bubble was going to be something that really scaled with us long term, right? I think early on, we had conversations, and we were worried about what would traditional investors think about us using Bubble or something like that, right? There were a lot of question marks. No code has really exploded in the past few years, but prior to that, a lot of people really didn't know what it was. But we switched over. We've been able to kind of work with them, have an open line of communication about our needs. They've been able to help us out, when we've needed help. If there's something going wrong with our app, they're always quick to take a look. Or if there's something new that we've needed, and we've been able to be vocal and have a conversation with them about it. And it's really, really just been a great experience. I would say from there, in late 2018, we raised our first round of funding, which was big for us, right? Because those early reservations, right? Are people going to be kind of turned off by the idea that we're using Bubble in the backend or something like that? But I think we were able to kind of dispel that and kind of prove it wrong in a sense, right? We went out, we raised $750,000 in 2018 from a group of angel investors, and we're able to keep going from there, even with a small technical team, right? We've never had more than two, technical people in-house on our team. And that's because Bubble has allowed us to stay lean, allowed us to keep our costs down. It's actually amazing that we, as we're talking to investors and we're going through our finances and our budget and things like that, they see that our costs are low on that end. They say like, well, how is that even possible? How do you not have, a full team of engineers? How are you not paying more for your infrastructure, things like that? But it's because we've been able to continue to be lean, continue to be scrappy, and make the most of Bubble's platform to get the most out of it, right? So from there, we raised $750,000, and then won a few other awards and grants, just like the Google for Startups one I mentioned. We are currently raising another round that will close likely in the next 45, 60 days. And again, just continuing to prove that, Bubble built companies and apps can go out and raise significant sums of money and get significant success, customers, things like that. And that Bubble does scale with your application as you continue to grow. And then I would say that, maybe one other thing that has been kind of a advantage for our team as a whole with using Bubble is that it's allowed some of our team members that are less technical to really get involved on the product side or even on the data side, right? So no-code platforms are really, really great for designers, right? Because if anybody's familiar with kind of like front end, software development traditionally with a designer and developer, right? You've got your designer that's gonna put together like a sketch file or something like that, and then pass it off, and then your developer essentially has to take those assets and recreate it, right? But allowing your designers to build something in Bubble really kind of takes away that middle step, right? Because it's cool because they can actually just create their designs right then and there, right? And then I know also Bubble has some other cool things with that as well. I think they've got like a Figma integration that they just released, or something along those lines. I haven't used that yet. But also beyond that, beyond designers, we've had, people who have needed to analyze certain data, from our database or things like that. So, we're able to give them permission so that they can go in and pull that data from Bubble, and do a lot of different things with that. So it's been really great because, there's so many aspects or so many people in our team that really benefit from being able to like access our app, whether it's the front end or the database, in a way that's easy for them to understand, and so that they can really do their jobs at a high level as well. So, but yeah, so I guess that's a high level summary of my kind of journey using Bubble and Qoins and things like that. Would love to hear any questions or anything like that.
Nate, thank you. That was amazing. I think all of the points you shared should be. This is like a book for all the people that are having a hard time convincing anyone, investors, clients, partners, their coworkers about what no-code is really capable of. You're like a living proof of all of that being real, all of that dream that people are talking about, that people are sharing and people looking forward to. You're the person who just came in there while nobody actually knew about this, and you just did all of that on your own, like small team, and lean up until this day. Amazing. I think the key takeaways from what you said, for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people, are two elements. First of all, do not be afraid to actually give it a shot and be first in something that has never been done before. Literally, I think I keep returning to that, but your application and your idea that actually worked was one of the very first ones that has happened, and it was done on Bubble. And then you pitched it to the investors. I mean, I can imagine how hard that was without even them having a good understanding or never hearing about platforms such as Bubble and other no-code tools. And you still made it. And you keep rolling, you keep expanding, you keep adding functions, you keep adding teams and getting funding. I mean, it is amazing. And the second takeaway for me is that it does not have to be an all or nothing choice. So if you're going with a no-code platform, it doesn't have to be like, okay, no-code all the way till I die for no reason, right? So it makes sense to go with no-code, not because it feels great, but because it works great. But if there's a particular purpose or particular appliance where there is a lot more sense to enhance your no-code setup with something else, you go for it, and then everyone's happy. So definitely thank you for sharing that amazing advice with the community. We all needed it. Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions though.
Yeah.
And they're mostly about what's coming next, because it has been an amazing journey so far. For the last 4 years, you have been an inspiration, and you still are. So what's going on next? So what's the plan for Qoins? What's going to be happening with the platform in I don't know, 2-3 years from now?
Yeah. So, kind of long term, we're looking at a few different things, right? We want to continue to kind of expand our ability to recommend things that people should be doing for their finances, right? So, one thing that we're looking at right now, in the U.S., the student loan epidemic is just out of control. So we're looking at ways that we can really, really kind of automate advice and actions, that really help people, sign them up for better plans, to pay back their student loans, save them money, things like that, right? Beyond that, we would love to get to the point to where we have, like a debit card or, kind of like a true bank account functionality, especially for those people who are kind of underserved in the banking community. There's just so many people that banks don't really deem worthy for credit or don't really deem worthy for accounts. And, because we already work with those people, we can take a look at them and say, well, your credit score says you're risky, but we can look at you and you know how you're spending your money, and you know we can see that you're responsible, right? Like we'll
Mm-hmm.
give you a chance, we'll give you a shot. So you know we really want to do that. And then beyond that, I think one day, you know, we're still probably a little bit far off from it, but one day we'd like to look at some international markets as well. You know, we've had some inbound interests from, you know, companies like, or not companies, countries like the UK or, you know, Australia, you know, things like that. So, you know, we'd love to get to the point to where we're able to help people outside of the US as well.
Right.
And yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Now that you're mentioning it, I've heard a few people mentioning in the comments, please bring this to the United Kingdom. We really need that kind of thing. So apparently you've done your homework and you've done the research on that. For sure,
We hear
people are
you one
waiting.
day.
Yeah. And the last question is, I feel like you're a person that has more energy than one project can handle. So that with the Codeless Academy, I see recently that you have restarted putting more effort and energy into that. So what's your plan personally? And I mean, what are the other projects that you're working on? If you can tell us about those, and what do you plan to be? Not, taking Qoins into the account, because it's a great app, it's a great platform, but it has a life of their own. And you you give me the vibe of the person who has more ideas than that. So what are you up to?
Yeah, yeah. So like, you know, as you mentioned, you know, Colas Academy kind of resurfaced this year after some inactivity. And then really, really now kind of focused on, you know, efficiently, you know, converting bubble web apps into like kind of like native applications, or giving them like native
Mm,
functionality, right? You know, I feel like, especially during the first few years of Coins, you know, we were using like a very, very similar like method to, you know, make our app available in the iOS and you know, Android stores. So I wanted to kind of take a little bit of the knowledge that I gained over those years and really kind of like make it easier for other people. So that's been going actually really well so far. We've been able to convert, you know, several applications, you know, into native apps, or give them native functionality, and you know, hopefully we'll be able to showcase more of those soon. But beyond that, you know, there's been a lot of there's been a lot going on this year, you know, with, you know, social
yeah,
justice and things like that. Well, yeah, there's been a lot in general going on this year, but specifically around like, you know, social justice, things like that, you know. And you know, as a black man in America, you know, I'm constantly looking for ways to kind of use my skill set to kind of help on that front. You know, I don't really think I've identified fully what that's going to be yet.
hmm
But you know, I would hope that, you know, when you hear of something new from me next, that it would be more so kind of focus on that, and you know, maybe something that's free or not for profit or something like that. But you know, I would love to really kind of use my skills to help there as well.
amazing, Nate. You're not only a legend, but also a big giver back. That's basically the philosophy behind Coins, behind Coinless, man, Codeless Academy, and looks
We'll
like
just
this is
merge
the
the two.
original. Yeah, that sounds like a good business idea, by the way. Yeah, and it feels like it's a general life approach, which is amazing. So thank
Thank
you
you.
very, very much for being here with us today, sharing your honesty and your experience and your plans, and we wish you good luck with everything that you do right now and everything that you're coming up with shortly. We are sure. We'll be on the lookout, because you're definitely an unending source of great success stories for all the people ever pitching no code anywhere to anyone. Thank you, Nate, and we appreciate your being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.